Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt, this time in person. Dad, how are you doing?
Doing all right here in San Diego, enjoying the San Diego weather, countryside, palm trees, airplanes.
I was going to say, I don't know if you can call it countryside. It's a pretty big city. But anyway, we are here today to preview the Packers Week 4 matchup on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to be taking you through everything you need to know, from the injury report to the news to the individual matchups we're keeping an eye on to the group matchups to some question marks maybe we have about some approaches to the game. But anyway, we'll be talking about all of that, so stay tuned for that. If you like what you hear here today, subscribe, whether that's Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father-Son Packer for updates on when the episodes are out, updates on Packers roster moves, Packers news, Packers injury reports, etc., etc. One-stop shopping for everything Titletown. That's the usual spiel. But Dad, I guess we'll just get into it. And let's start with some news and notes, a couple of quick things. Roster moves. Packers cut Mecole Hardman from the practice squad. A little bit surprised by that, given the fact that Reed's going to be out so long, and we don't really have a natural punt returner on the roster right now. Golden's been fine, but I'm a little surprised by that. Beyond that, Green Bay signed wide receiver Jacoby Keeney-James to the practice squad, a smaller wide receiver out of UMass, fast, 5'11", 190, 4.37 40 time. Green Bay also signed Lessida Smith, offensive lineman, to the practice squad. He had previously been with Green Bay in the offseason and also the previous offseason as well, so he has some history with Green Bay. And then we also signed Brant Banks to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. So some offensive line moves, and we'll talk about the offensive line in a bit and why those were necessary.
A dire need to add offensive linemen.
Exactly. But Dad, any thoughts on any of those moves?
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to find out if the wide receiver, Keeney James, has any history of punt returns, because I think a lot of us feel like too many punts have been bouncing on the ground. And I've been surprised that they haven't tried Hardman, didn't elevate him to do that. And now every week I'm like, oh, they'll let him this week. They need better punt returning. And so we'll see if Keeney James has any ability in that regard. He's, kind of a fast, small receiver. He's sort of, in some ways, at least the old prototype for a punt returner, smaller, maybe shiftier, faster wide receiver.
Yeah, so we'll see. Could be a special teams body. Probably won't be seeing the active roster, but, just something to keep in mind. Moving on, though, Dad, to the injury report. So we are recording this Friday, but we don't have the actual, designations yet, but we do have the practice reports and some of the news from Matt LaFleur, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Starting on the Packers side, the big thing is 3 DNPs for 3 different Green Bay offensive linemen, and that's Zach Tom, Anthony Belton, and Aaron Banks. Tom and Belton have both been confirmed to not be playing this weekend. And remember, the Packers do have their bye the week after this, so if they miss this game, they'll have next week off as well and hopefully be able to be back by week 6. I think that's the hope for those two guys. No Tom, no Belton for this game. So right tackle is going to be a spot to watch. And then Aaron Banks has not practiced either. According to LaFleur this morning, like we said, Belton is out with that ankle injury, but it's not considered to be a long-term injury. And we knew earlier in the week that Zach Tom was not going to play. That was almost like Tuesday we knew that he wasn't going to play, right?
Right. They're going to let him go through the bye and then see how it goes after that. I mean, it didn't sound all that optimistic that he was going to be ready to go right away after the bye. And the fact they get the Cowboys defense this week and they get the Bengals defense after the bye, like, I'm thinking might as well wait till after that game too.
I mean, we can't take anything for granted. We'll see. And then there are a bunch of players who are limited as well, including Rasheed Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Micah Parsons is limited as well, but there are a lot of players who are limited. It is just kind of the NFL, and that's how it goes. But a laundry list of players there as well to keep an eye on for the actual injury report, and we'll be posting that out on Blue Sky later today when that does come out. So keep your eyes open for that one. On the Dallas Cowboys side, the big thing is their CeeDee Lamb is not going to play in this game. He hurt his ankle last week. And he's going to miss the next 3 to 4 weeks, apparently, but is not going on IR. So their star receiver is not going to play in this game. So that's definitely a big blow for them. Their starting center, Cooper Beebe, is also on IR already. So they're going to be without him. And then their starting right guard, Tyler Booker, is also not likely to play. So we'll talk about that in a bit and what that means for their offense. The other one is Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs are full participants. So it seems like they're going to both be back playing. They both missed a good. I think Trevon Diggs fell out of last game. He started, but then ended up missing the rest of the game. And then Bland did not play. But they're both expected to play, so they're getting some reinforcements in the secondary. But Dad, any thoughts on the Cowboys side of the injury report?
Yeah, I think the big thing, of course, is Lamb missing the game. He's their number one target, their number one offensive weapon. But they're missing basically like two starting linemen on the interior.
Yeah,
so that's big. I think Wyatt is probably going to play. When he first started practicing at the beginning of the week, I think it was earlier than people expected. Because we didn't know at the end of the game, how serious his injury was, because it just kind of popped up as I mentioned late in the game. So, and then they're getting their two corners back. I think Bland's only played week 1, and Diggs got hurt in the last game. But we'll talk about their corners more later. And what that means.
Okay, well, let's move over to the key facts for this game. Just a couple of things to know. This game is in Dallas on Sunday Night Football on NBC at 7:20 p.m. Lambeau time. The over-under is 47.5, with the Packers being favored by 7 points on the road. So that's a pretty big spread for a road game, for an implied score of about 27-20 Green Bay. In terms of storylines for this game, obviously the big one is Micah Parsons' return to Dallas. That's been in the news everywhere in national media. Everyone's been talking about it from the Cowboys side, from Micah Parsons' side. He spent his first 4 years of his career there. Also, though, Green Bay facing Kenny Clark, a bit of a return there as well. So that definitely means something as well. In terms of the Packers, I guess the storyline is not just, Micah Parsons' return to Dallas, but also how do they respond after, laying a complete egg in Cleveland? Some of the DVOA numbers, like it was 7th best offense in week 1, 21st best offense in week 2, and then 31st best offense in week 3. You can't really trend any further down than that. 32 is the one spot. 32 is the lowest we can go. Hopefully we start to bounce back. But the defense has been continuously good over that time, so that's at least that. And then for the Cowboys, the question mark, I guess, is how does the offense respond to missing Lamb, who's the number one target? It's probably going to be George Pickens, but just something to keep an eye on. How do they, replace that production? And then Jadeveon Clowney making his possible debut for Dallas in this game as well. That's also a bit of a storyline there for them as well. But Dad, let's move over to our, main takeaways, or main preview for this game, I should say. And that's our important stats. What's your first thing that you're kind of keeping an eye on in this game?
Okay, I'll talk about my first one. And I've got a couple that are tied together, but more generally, the Cowboys' passing defense is last in the league by DVOA, according to FTN Fantasy, and also last in EPA per pass, according to NFL Pro. For comparison, the defense for the Packers' first 3 opponents by DVOA, Detroit is 16th, Washington is 10th best, and Cleveland is 3rd best. So they've had 2 top 10 defense and 1 middle-of-the-pack defense so far they've had to face. And now they're dropping to a defense that's dead last. So I'm liking that trend. I would like that trend to continue for the rest of the season, that we just play one defense after another who ends up being last as we're going into and maybe even more so, last after we play them. After we play them, then they drop to last.
And yeah, they have not been good defending the pass. They've gotten kind of, lit up by the Bears last week, the Giants the week before, and the Eagles game was, I think, a bit more of a competitive game in the passing game. I do wonder, what getting Diggs and Bland back does for their, pass defense. I think that is they get some cavalry there. They get some backups coming in, some relief.
I'll talk a little bit more about how good those horses are in that cavalry and my next point. But I think the big one was the Giants lit them up. And Russell Wilson has since lost his job after throwing for a near career high in that game.
Yeah, I mean, he threw for almost 400 yards in that game. It was 400 yards?
Over 400
by a decent amount. Yeah, and it went to overtime, but still. It's a 400 yards, and then Russell Wilson got benched after the next week. So that's kind of just a bit of context there to how much they've been struggling to defend the pass so far. So that's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. I would love to see a massive Golden game. I mean, he has been so close to hitting that home run I mean, in week 2, it was just like, oh, the ball's just a little too short or a little too far. And then in week 3, he just runs out of bounds. Have you seen the like sideline, not the sideline view, but the all 22 angle where you can see Savion Williams like grab his head as like Golden like ducks out of bounds?
Oh, I missed that. Because you see, when you first see that on the all 22, like, oh man, he has so much room before the sideline there.
Yeah. I mean, he's gone. He's really gone. And I was telling you, I think, did I tell you on air or off air? I can't remember. It was like reminiscent of Aaron Jones in that playoff game against the Niners.
I think we did talk about that and what became of that. We talked about that, what became of that drive after he didn't, just power straight ahead as far as he could. And we ended up, I think, getting nothing because we got a field goal attempt in the end that I think was also blocked. But here's what I'm hoping, Matthew Golden style. Repeat of Christian Watson, rookie year, against the Cowboys.
Is it 3 touchdowns?
3 touchdown game.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I would just love to see them get him a little bit more involved. And I think they're going to have to pass because, I mean, I would also like to see the running game pick up a little bit. But that does kind of bring me to my next point, or our next point, which is I feel like the biggest story, we talked about, does the offense bounce back, like in terms of team storylines? I think a lot of that is going to be, does the offensive line, like, can the offensive line not have one of the worst games I've ever seen from an entire unit? I mean, we talked about it. Every single one of the offensive linemen that like played significant snaps gave up at least three pressures in that game. Like, there was no one playing good. And I showed you this beforehand because you hadn't seen it. The Browns had a mic'd up for Myles Garrett. He was wearing a mic for that game. And there's a snap where he beats Rasheed Walker so badly, and you can hear Rasheed Walker turn and scream, "Jordan, run!" as he's getting beat, and Jordan has to flee the pocket. I mean, we're running the classic lookout protection, which is where you turn and scream, "Look out!" as loud as you can, because that's how poorly the offensive line played, last week. And really, it's not just a last week thing. Through 3 games, we talked about this on, our last pod, but I'll bring it up again in this one. Through 3 games, the Packers are allowing a 40% pressure rate. That's 7th worst in the league. We are getting just 0.65 yards before contact per rushing attempt. That's also 7th worst in the league. We have graded out as the 5th worst pass blocking unit and the 4th worst run blocking unit in the league per PFF. And so it's just a bottom 10 unit through 3 weeks. And like with the investments that have been made, that can't happen. And I get that you're, dealing with, kind of a rotating cast of characters, but now it's looking like you're not going to have 3 of your top 7 guys for this game, with Tom and Belton already ruled out and Banks probably not going to play. Rasheed Walker is also limited, so that's maybe a little scary, but I think it's more likely that he plays. But it sounds like he's not going to be 100%. He's dealing with a quad injury. And I guess my question there is, how does the offensive line respond? How does the team help, the offensive line in terms of, because it's seeming like Morgan's going to play left guard and Kennard's going to play right tackle. Now, in my opinion, I don't think Morgan is a guard. I think we have seen enough of him at guard. It does not seem to be working. What was it that you said Domovsky said?
Oh, so this is on ESPN Madison, I think, being interviewed. He's talking about how right now Jordan Morgan is looking like one of those quarterbacks gets drafted high into a bad situation and then is just never the same again.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think he's a guard. Every time I watch him play, he struggles at guard. And then in the preseason, he plays tackle. And I get it's preseason, but he looks good. And so I would prefer to see Morgan at right tackle and Kennard at left guard. But it seems like that's not going to be what they do based on practice so far. And I mean, number one, that you're already stretched thin. What happens if another guy goes down? I assume it would be Donovan Jennings because he's like the last guy who was on the active roster at the start of the season. They did just sign Brant Banks, but I'm imagining that Jennings would be ahead of him. And then they'll probably, they'll either, promote Leslie Smith or Dalton Cooper from the practice squad for this game just to have another body. But it's getting really thin really quick. And the Dallas D-line has some players, especially along the interior. Kenny, obviously, already has 9 pressures this season. Osa Digizua, really good player, 6 pressures this season. They're both obviously quite good along the interior. And then Dante Fowler with 5 pressures so far and Sam Williams with 7 pressures so far this year have both been solid pass rushers in the league. And then they're getting Clowney for this game, who, has been an established player in this league for a long time. And so how does the offensive line respond? I mean, it's going to be huge for this game because like the passing game should be able to get going, but if you can't protect, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to see fewer lookout blocks this game. We don't even know for sure who's going to be Well, I guess in practice today, it was looking like Morgan was lining up next to Walker in some of the drills, like he's going to be a left guard. In some ways, I feel like their best option might be, you talked about this offline, Morgan at left tackle and Walker at right tackle. Because Morgan looks good in left tackle all training camp and preseason, and it seems to be his position, and he doesn't seem to play as well anywhere else on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, they clearly are okay with some players being one position only. Rasheed Walker has been a left tackle only. Aaron Banks has been a left guard only, has not played any right guard in any practice ever. Rasheed Walker has never, he played a little bit of right tackle his first year with the team, so that's why we're saying we think he could play some right tackle in this game if need be. Why is Morgan forced to play every single position under the sun? And like when he doesn't look good anywhere but at like left tackle, and I mean we just haven't seen him much at right tackle. I think he could do it, but we haven't seen it. Like like you said with the Domovsky quote, it feels like they're setting him up for failure. And Matt LaFleur, I think, had they asked him in one of his press conferences this week if they felt he was they were stretching Morgan too thin, and he said that's possible. And so it's like, okay, well, why are we still doing it then?
I was going to suggest this if you are brave enough. Possible drinking game every time LaFleur says, well, maybe we should not put so much on Morgan's plate.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be blind after about like an hour. But anyway, yeah, so like, I just don't, the O-line needs to be better, but I don't see how it's going to be this game when you're essentially working with less options than you had last game, and you got absolutely boat raced by their D-line. And obviously the Browns defensive line is better than the Cowboys defensive line, but the Cowboys defensive line has good players on it. And I just, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know, maybe some more like boot action stuff, maybe moving the pocket a little bit more. I'm not sure.
I mean, that seemed to work a little bit against even the Browns defensive line, who probably have the best front. I mean, one thing is they made all this plan to account for Myles Garrett and then ignored everybody else in their line like didn't matter. And they were getting beat up the middle over and over again.
But that's not even like, you can say that, but also Myles Garrett beat them over and over again. So it's like, the plan also didn't work. Like, it'd be one thing if like you had all this plan to stop Myles Garrett and you slowed him down. It's like, then the other guys got us. You also did not stop Myles Garrett. So it's like, what was the point?
The one thing that surprised me with this game is I'm surprised you didn't have to see more Chris Brooks in the backfield picking up pass rushers.
Yeah, that is a good point. We didn't see a lot of Brooks in that game. I can't say he must have. Did he play at all in that game?
He played a little bit, but I haven't looked at the snap count, but I don't think it was very much.
Okay, but yeah, so the offensive line is definitely, I mean, it needs to bounce back. It just needs to. It's been so bad through 3 weeks. But Dad, what's your next stat?
So I'm going to continue to hammer the Dallas defense. In this case, the coverage of pass catchers in particular. So their PFF coverage grade is 27th in the league. According to NFL Pro, Dallas's average separation given up to receivers by the defense is 31st in the league, so second worst. Deron Bland, so they're getting him back, but he's only played one game, so it's a small sample size.
And he just got a pretty big extension this offseason, too.
And Triquez Bridges, they have the worst and the third worst yards of separation in their coverage for all cornerbacks in the league, according to NFL Pro. So that's out of like, was it 45 or 50 qualifying corners? But they haven't, neither one has played that many snaps. So it's a small sample size, but they've both been bad. So, I mean, bottom of the league bad. For the corners with at least 40 coverage snaps, their other corners, Reddy Stewart is 56th. Kaiir Elam is 97th. And Trayvon Diggs is 105th out of 106 qualifiers in passer rating into their coverage. That's from PFF. So, yeah, they're getting some corners back. They so far have been not so good in a small sample size. And the corners who have played most of the snaps have also, the best of them is like middle of the pack in the league. And the other two are in the bottom, like 10.
Yeah, I mean, Kaiir Elam was a high pick of the Bills, and he just never worked out there, and they had to move on. And, I mean, now he's starting for the Cowboys, or playing significant snaps at least. I do think that Bland is better than, the numbers. Like, it's a very small sample size, but I do think that's interesting that they are giving up that much separation. And did you see the thing about how like Savion Williams has like only gotten like gadget snaps so far this year? Like his like outside, maybe it was just in that Browns game, but like he had like no outside receiver snaps, like actual true outside receiver snaps, and like guys like I think Fitzpatrick even had one. And so like, I wonder if we see like how the receiver room shakes out in this game. I guess it's going to be mostly Dobbs and then like a good amount of Golden, a good amount of Wicks, a good amount of Heath. I'd like to see Savion get worked in a little bit in like non-gadgety ways, but I guess we'll see. What are your thoughts on the, since we're talking about the Dallas pass coverage, this kind of an aside, the movement by some Packers people that, really, is Fitzpatrick tight end too? Like, should he be ahead of Musgrave? Like, because Musgrave is really, he's not giving you a whole lot in the passing game. I mean, he has a couple of catches so far this year. And like, he's looked okay, but he's just not as good of a blocker. And so it doesn't help your run game. And when the offensive line is struggling, you really need better blocking. Not to say that Fitzpatrick is some all-world blocker, but I mean, he's maybe a little bit better there in Musgrave. What do you think?
I think there's that you may have hit the nail on the head there. With their injured offensive line, they're probably want to do more chipping, more help from the tight ends, and it seems like they trust Fitzpatrick to do that more than Musgrave. And so this may be another game where we see Fitzpatrick outplay Musgrave and get more opportunity because they're not just giving away that this guy's going out in a route and not doing anything else.
Yeah,
which they may not want to do with any of their tight ends right now.
Yeah, and that kind of offensive line, tight ends, blocking kind of takes me into my next point, which is the Packers just have to get the running game going at some point, right? Like at some point we have to be able to run the ball. On paper, we should be able to run the ball against this team. But the running game has been atrocious. We're 21st in EPA per carry and 26th in success rate. Dallas's run defense has been a bit boom or bust. They're actually 9th in stuff rate, which is the percentage of runs that go for 0 yards or are a tackle for loss. But they are 23rd in EPA per carry and 21st in rushing success rate allowed. So like they're giving up like some big plays. That's what the EPA per carry kind of difference between that and the stuff rate kind of shows. And you can also, churn out some yards against them. But the Packers right now are 23rd in carries over 10 plus yards. So we haven't been explosive either. And so like, it's really a mid-off in the running game in terms of like how each team has looked through 3 games. But if you were looking at this like game, like not having watched the Packers through 3 weeks, on paper with preseason expectations, the Packers should like be able to run all over this team, like all over this team. And I mean, I would like to see it, but like I can't say I'm super hopeful. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so far, whatever experiment the Packers have done to try to retool their line to a big mauling, people mover running game blocking has yielded no success.
That's the thing is like all of these moves have been like, let's get bigger on the offensive line. We want to impose our will. We want to be able to move guys in the running game. And all that's happened is we've just gotten worse at pass protection. Like we robbed Peter to pay Paul, and then Peter didn't have anything. like we didn't end up paying Paul. Like we didn't have enough. So it's like it's just all bad. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know like what the running game is going to be. I don't know if it's. I mean, maybe we can get. What do you think? Like if Lloyd comes back, do we get a more explosive running game? Like I've been thinking it was like, what happens with when Marshawn Lloyd comes back? Like, are we going to be able to run the ball maybe a little bit better? And because like it's not Jacobs' fault. Like Jacobs has been doing like what he can with the holes that he has. And I mean, outside of the fumble against the Browns, because like that just can't happen. But like he's been doing his job. There just haven't been openings or like any kind of push. He's getting hit in the backfield every single time. I don't know what the fix is.
Yeah, I think this idea of, we're not getting very many explosive plays, that could be fixed at least partially by Lloyd. Because I think that's his, have some home run ability. And so that when they're on those rare occasions where there is space, Lloyd has a chance to actually take it and possibly all the way the whole distance, but make more big runs out of it when there's something there because of his speed. And it was showing it in training camp and preseason before his latest injury. I mean, that play that he got injured on that he's out for now was a beautiful catch down the sideline in the preseason. So, but I'm hoping like let's just watch. This is going to be the offensive line grouping, where we're going to get good blocking.
That would be hilarious. And because I was just looking really quick because I was like, well, maybe if we run some more play action, because people talk about, running to set up play action, but you can also run play action to set up the run. But we're already running play action at the 3rd highest rate in the league. So it's like how much more can you really hit that button? Like, I don't even know. And so it's like, I'm just not sure what the solution is besides like, hey, offensive line, play better. Like, is that like just play better? But yeah, so that's, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. But anyway, what's your next stat?
So the last thing I have is actually something that Dallas has been better at, is that Javonte Williams has been, I think, better than anybody expected going into the year. I think a lot of people think he had looked bad the last couple of years after his ACL injury and hadn't seemed to come back. But I think he's doing better. Some people thought he would not even have the job by this point, that it would have gone to the rookie Blue, who had a bad offseason. And
well, I mean, it was a three-way competition too. It was between Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue. And it was like in the offseason, it was like, well, it could be anyone's job. And then Javonte Williams looks like he looked at UNC. Like this is the best he's looked since college, or since his rookie year, I guess.
Yeah, rookie year was good. So right now, he's 7th in the league in rushing yards with 227 at 5.3 yards per carry. So pretty efficient. And that's 12th best out of the 45 qualifying running backs who've had, I forget exactly the number of carries, but so he's in the top, like third. He's also 9th in rush yards over expected amongst those 45 qualifiers, and 10th in rushing EPA. And he's also 3rd in the league amongst qualifiers in yards after contact per attempt. So he's doing a lot with the opportunities he's getting. He's getting more than what's blocked for him, which is something that I think people weren't expecting him to be able to do anymore. So he's having a good year. I got him on all 3 of my fantasy teams. So that worked out for me, because I was thinking this could be his job. Just taking a chance on somebody compared to what his competition was and what the reports were out of camp, that he could, but he's actually done better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked great. He looks like rejuvenated, good for him. I hope he doesn't have a good game in this one. Hopefully our run defense can maintain because it's really been 11 quarters of really good run defense. And then 1 quarter, but it was the last one of not being able to stop the Browns running game.
It was really just the one drive.
Yeah. I mean, just gave up a couple of explosive runs, and I mean, can the run defense bounce back? Because that was really the last we saw of the defense, though, of the run defense, was just some poor play there on that second to last drive, I guess, because the last drive when they went for the field goal, they didn't, or third to last drive, I guess, because they had the touchdown drive that was a yard, so that barely counts. And then and then after that, the field goal drive that they mostly threw the ball. But the drive before that, yeah, they had a couple big Quinshon Judkins runs that just kind of. It just got away from us a little bit. And so hopefully we can bounce back there too. We really need a bounce back game, I guess is what I'm saying. And you talking about the, Cowboys running game kind of brings me to talking a little bit about something I'm keeping an eye on in this game, and I just don't know how it's going to go, is Dallas's interior offensive line versus our defensive tackles. Their interior offensive line is really good on paper, but injuries make this a total question mark for them, because their interior 3 normally of Tyler Smith, who's been a multi-time Pro Bowler at left guard, Cooper Beebe, who was quite good as a rookie last year, and then Tyler Booker, who they drafted in the first round this year, is really good on paper. But Cooper Beebe is on IR, like we said, so it's going to be Brock Hoffman at center, who is just not as good, and he gave up 4 pressures last week, actually, at center, which is not great. Can Green Bay take advantage of that? Interesting to keep an eye on. And then Booker's not going to play in this game, it sounds like, so it's going to be TJ Bass at right guard. He did okay in spot duty last year, but he's obviously not as good as Booker, and he hasn't played yet this season. I guess he has 1 snap as an inline tight end when they went to a jumbo package with 6 linemen. So other than that, he has not played this year. And so I want to see, can Green Bay take advantage of that in a number of ways? Number one, with Hoffman and with Bass, those individuals are just not going to be as good. Can guys like Wooden and Wyatt and Brooks take advantage of that matchup and just win that matchup in the running game and also in the passing game? That's something to keep an eye on. And then also, those guys just haven't played together as much. You would think the cohesiveness of that unit is going to be a question mark, given that they just haven't had the reps together. When you're rotating 2 guys along the interior and one of them's the center, can Green Bay take advantage of that with more, mugged up A-gap looks, where they bring Walker and Coop down into the A-gaps and just have those guys there over the center's head on every single snap? I would love to see more of that. More blitzes along the A-gaps from those 2 guys. Can they confuse those guys? Can we do some more stunts and twists with the interior guys, looping guys around? I think that could, yield some really good results. More Micah over the A-gap, over the center. I think that could yield some really good results. I feel like that's been a bit of a mixed bag so far. I feel like he's actually looked better just rushing as a pure edge rusher so far with Green Bay. But I think this is one where they might just false start as soon as they see him. Like that's something I'm like keeping an eye on. It's like, are they just going to false start because they start to panic when they see him like lined up there? But so I think that that's something that you can confuse guys who have not played together as much and like get them to miss assignments and stuff like that. And I think that that's on the table for Green Bay.
I'm hoping for some lookout blocks by the Cowboys, like hear a Dak run. That's what I'm looking for. But I agree that Wyatt could be a player to watch in this game. He could have a big game, and if he has a big game, it'll mean very good things for the Packers.
Yeah, 100%. And like Van Ness is coming off of a really good game as well. And when they've pinched him inside, it feels like they've mostly had him line up over the left guard. I wonder if they'll like have him pinch inside and line up over the right guard because that's a bit more of a weakness. I don't know. That's just something I'm keeping my eye on in this game. But yeah, so I mean, we should be able to take advantage of it. The D-line's been really good. The linebackers have been really good. Even McDuffie's been like really solid, like in the limited snaps that he's had. I know he had that one missed tackle against the Browns last week, but otherwise he's been playing really well. But yeah, so that's the last stat that I had. Dad, did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on before I hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions?
Those are the main things, and I might have something to say in response to rapid fire questions. So let's see what happens.
Okay. So my main thing is, so Nate Hobbs last week took 34 snaps to Valentine's 18. So he was outsnapped in his debut against Washington. Valentine had more snaps. But then last week, Hobbs 34 to Valentine's 18, like I said. Do you think that going forward stays similar? Do you think it should stay similar? Like, how do you see that kind of rotation breaking down? Because Keyshawn's playing like 100% of the snaps right now, and he's playing well. So that kind of makes sense. But how do you look at that corner 2 spot as a rotation? Do you think we keep seeing Valentine? Do you think over time Hobbs just takes it over completely? What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm making a wild guess here, but it might have to do with personnel of the opponent. Like I say, two of the pass catchers in Cleveland we would have been worried about the most were Njoku and the rookie Fannin. And so with bigger pass catchers at tight end, we may have wanted to have Hobbs and say Bullard in more than Valentine. Here, you've got Lamb is out, and then you've got Pickens playing like, I assume, out wide jump balls deep downfield because that's kind of been his only thing ever. Ferguson's going to be getting he's going to get spammed with targets at tight end. And who's going to cover him? I'm not entirely sure. Is that going to be Bullard?
Yeah, if Bullard is able to play, I'd imagine it would be him. But if he can't, I wonder, like, do you just line up one of like Walker or Cooper on him? Like, is that the best option? Because Evan Williams is a little bit smaller. I don't know if because what was it? Jake Ferguson is like leading all tight ends in targets or something like that. Like they're using him a lot so far this year.
Yeah, he's got more targets than Lamb, I think, so far. 20 and more catches than he. 27 catches. Yeah, more targets and catches than anybody else on the Cowboys. So the question is, who is going to be their third pass catcher in this game? They got like Tolbert and Turpin, I think, have been the guys who have been next in line. I think the guys you're going to be most worried about are going to be Ferguson and Pickens.
Well, so okay, so I guess let's touch first. Let's talk about the tight ends really quick and how we think that matchup's going to look, because I think that Ferguson being really probably going to be their go-to guy in this game. Like they're going to try and hit Pickens on some of those deep shots and in breakers, and I think that that's going to be something that Hobbs is a bit more physical, a bit bigger, so I think that matchup maybe works a little bit more in his favor. So I think I think we'll still see Valentine rotate in because he is a good player and we've seen him play well, in this defense, and I feel like you can't just take him off the field entirely. So I wonder if maybe we see Hobbs work in the slot a little bit more and like they do that going forward. So in terms of the tight end looks, I think that it feels like that's going to be a Cooper Walker matchup, and I guess we'll just see, because I don't want to see McDuffie really matched up in space on Ferguson. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was looking up the vast majority of Ferguson's like production is in the middle of the field. So we could see that being either helped or covered by one of the linebackers, either Cooper, most likely Cooper or Walker. And, they'll have to watch their depth and how they're, keep an eye on where he's dropping when they're in zone. So that's my guess, rather than having the slot corner maybe not be covering him the whole time, but I don't think they're going to be doing a lot of 3 receiver sets.
Probably not. You'd imagine. Well, I guess we'll see. It's going to be interesting because like they have Schoonmaker, like as a second tight end who they did draft with like a decently high draft pick a few years ago. So they have the personnel to work that 12 personnel stuff because he's still developing. I think he hasn't really popped in the league so far, but I don't think they're like, moving on from him for like, by any means. They haven't played him a ton, but and with Lamb out, they don't really have that designated, although Turpin's been pretty good, so maybe they'll do more Tolbert on the outside, Pickens on the outside, and Turpin as more of a slot guy. I don't know. It's really kind of tough because we haven't really seen, what this offense looks like much like with a full week to plan without CeeDee Lamb. So it's a bit like, bit anyone's guess. But yeah, so I think my two rapid fire questions were like the Hobbs Valentine, like split. I think that's probably going to be similar going forward. And then how do we cover Ferguson? Like you were talking about, we kind of just naturally flowed into that. I think it's going to be Cooper. I think we're going to play a lot of zones, so I don't think it's necessarily going to matter all that much. But he's definitely a player to keep an eye on. And then I think that does it for my rapid fire questions. Did you have anything else that was kind of eating at your brain at all that you didn't get a chance to touch on that maybe came up while we were talking about this, or anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
Should we talk about, I don't know if we want to get into the morass of like kick protection, but how about punt returns?
Oh,
you think you're going to stick with Golden at punt returner? It hasn't been great.
Hasn't been bad. I don't know. I'm a little more concerned about the opposite on their returns because Turpin is so talented as a returner. Has been in the league for a few years now. I would worry about them breaking a big one. That's definitely going to be a concern for me in this game. In terms of like who the Packers have at punt returner in this game, I just don't see anyone else on the roster. I don't think you should have Keyshawn do it. Number one, I don't think he's that good of a punt returner. He's a great kick returner, but I don't think he's that good of a punt returner. And outside of Golden, who else can even do it? Savion maybe, but they just haven't had him out there for that.
What about Bo Melton?
That's possible. It's possible. I guess we'll see. I think they're going to stick with Golden though, because they haven't really hinted at rotating that at all. I guess we'll see. In terms of, covering kicks and covering punts, I'm concerned, but I guess we'll see. But Dad, I guess that brings us to our bottom line. Packers win if blank.
So I have they win if they can pass the ball as everybody expects them to be able to do against the Cowboys defense. If they can do that, they're going to win. And so that'll be if they, the protection's good enough, because I think they're going to get receivers open. And will they lean into the pass and not, just try to do the run first? I think they tried to maybe run too much against the Browns. It didn't pass enough. I think they got a little too smart for their own good in some ways of what that game plan was in the last game.
The ADOT was also just ridiculous in that game. We talked about it. Like Jordan Love had an average depth of target of about a yard, which is like unheard of for him. I have the Packers win if we can beat up their makeshift offensive line. Like if we can beat up that interior, we should win this game. Score prediction though, Dad, what do you got?
So I'm sticking with the high score though. With all the offensive line, it might be low. I'm going Packers win 30-24.
Okay, I got Packers 27-21. Hopefully we're both close to right. Hopefully the Packers are able to take this win and move to 3-1 ahead of the bye and, go into the bye week with some momentum, because I think it would really suck if we went into the bye week on 2 straight losses. But yeah, so hopefully Green Bay can get this win. Either way, we will be here after that game, breaking down everything from it. We'll be doing an episode next week, so check that out. Once again, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment, tell a friend, tell a stranger, get notifications. Every single button you can hit, just hit them. Interact any way you can. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer for, updates on when new episodes are out, updates on roster moves for the Packers. We'll be, skeeting out, I guess is the verb for that. The injury report, the official injury report later today. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Once again, at Father Son Packer. Updates from, essentially roster moves, see like what the practice squad elevations look like, because I think that'll be really telling to see like what offensive linemen they end up picking between Cooper and Lessida Smith going forward, in terms of like who they have ahead of who on the depth chart. Beyond that, content from other Packers content creators, et cetera, one-stop shopping for everything Titletown. But again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.